Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Innovation and Sustainability Trending Textiles, sponsored by Invest Hong Kong. I'm Fiona Harron and I'm part of the content team at WTIN. InvestHK's vision is to strengthen Hong Kong's status as the leading international business location in Asia. The mission of this department is to attract and retain foreign direct investment, which is of strategic importance to the economic development of Hong Kong. For over 20 years, InvestHK has been providing support and advice to strengthen Hong Kong's position as the cradle of international business on the Asian continent. The department helps companies at different stages of their businesses, including planning, setup, launch, and aftercare or expansion. The services of the department are offered free of charge. Today's webinar includes presentations from Candy Nip of the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office, New York, Dr. Gloria Yao of HK Rita, Michael Chan of Sung Il, Vivek Ramachandran of Sarai, Lynn Sprugel of AmCham Apparel and Abuzz Global, and finally Emily Choi of InvestHK. Following the presentations, there will be a short Q&A. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentations, please type them into the Q&A question box in your Zoom control panel. Questions are not visible to other participants, so it will not be an interruption to your fellow participants. We will respond to these at the end of the presentations. And with that, we will open today's webinar, starting with the welcoming note from Candy Nip.
Thank you, Fiona. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you all joining this webinar today from across multiple time zones. I know we have friends from the US, of course, from Europe and from Asia. In particularly for Asia, it's getting quite late there. Thank you for joining us. I would also like to express my gratitude to the World Textile Information Network and Invest Hong Kong for organizing this event and for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. The textile industry is one of the largest industries in the world. It is an inevitable part of our life. Do you ever keep track of how often do you buy a new clothing item? According to the figures of the American Apparel and Footwear Association, on average, Americans buy over 60 apparel items per year. So that would mean more than one piece a week. If demographic and lifestyle patterns continue as they are now, the global consumption of apparel will rise from 62 million metric tons in 2019 to over 100 million tons in 10 years. That sounds pretty daunting. But at the same time, I'm sure you know better than I do that the production of raw materials, spinning them into fibers, weaving fabrics and dyeing, they all required an enormous amount of water and chemicals. According to the figures from the United Nations Environment Program, around 20% of wastewater worldwide comes from fabric dyeing and treatment. And the fashion industry is responsible for 10% of the annual global carbon emissions, more than the total of all international flights and maritime shipping combined. At this pace, the fashion industry's greenhouse gas emissions will surge more than 50% by 2030. Meanwhile, consumer use, myself included, has also a large environmental footprint. We use lots of water and energy and chemicals in washing, tumble drying, and ironing our clothes. And less than half of the used clothes are collected for reuse or recycling when they're no longer needed. But it is not all that gloomy. The textile and apparel industry worldwide has been increasingly committed to ensuring the sustainable development of the industry. The creation of the Fashion Pact during the G7 meeting in 2019 was an important milestone. For Hong Kong, we are a global hub for textiles and clothing sourcing. To many international textile companies, we serve as a gateway for them to promote their products to other Asian economies. We are also an ideal sourcing center for buyers looking for new and trendy materials. As one of the key players in the world, our industry is fully aligned with the international efforts to reduce environmental impact. Changes that companies put in place include stepping up investment in technological solutions, re-engineering the supply chain, and redesigning business strategies. Many of these adjustments, in fact, are not only for making the textile industry more sustainable, but they can also help us reduce cost and improve efficiency. In this sense, this should be a win-win situation for everyone. I'm so glad that today, at this forum, we are bringing together leaders from different parts of the textile and apparel supply chain to share about the latest innovation and sustainability practices in the industry, and to share their insight and experience in supply chain management in Asia. My colleague from Invest Hong Kong will share more about what Hong Kong could offer in developing your business and helping you to embrace the opportunities under this new landscape of innovation and sustainability. Without further ado, I will now pass the floor to our speakers. Thank you very much again.
Thank you for the welcoming note there, Candy. Now on to today's second presentation with Gloria Yao. Dr. Yao has considerable research experience in textiles and clothing. Her research specialises in textile clothing human body interactions, which focuses on functions and their health impact, sportswear design and human physiology evaluation. Over to you, Gloria.
Hi, I'm Gloria from the Hong Kong Research Institute of Textile and Apparel. Today I will share the topic, latest innovation in textiles. Hong Kong is an international fashion hub and a clothing global sourcing center. Hong Kong Retail was established in 2006, fully supported by Hong Kong Technology and Innovation Commission. As an applied research center, we support the textiles and apparel industry in increase the added value, productivity, and competitiveness of Hong Kong companies by upgrading their technology level and introducing innovative ideas. The textile industry is one of the most important industries, providing a large amount of jobs, foreign exchange revenue, and products essential for human welfare. The data from Fiber Year 2020 reported 120 million tons of fiber consumed globally, including 32 million tons natural fiber, 74 million tons of synthetic fiber, and others. However, the textile industry is regarded as the second largest polluter just after the oil industry. In 2018, the fashion industry produced 2.1 billion tons CO2. That represented 4% of global carbon emissions. It's a well-known factor that the world is producing and consuming more textiles than ever, resulting in immense amount of waste heading to the landfill due to the low reuse rate. According to data from Environmental Protection Agency, in 2017, more than 11 million tons of textile waste was discarded in landfills. The awareness for sustainability issues is at the highest. We need to make a change for the textile industry. We can all agree that circularity is one of the methods to improve the sustainability of the textile industry. Hong Kong REIT has devoted considerable time and resources in developing technologies to support the circularity. Address the biggest challenge of textile industry, garment waste. The million tons of garment waste consist of many types of garments and with various material and blended combination. In order to achieve circularity, the most effective way would be reuse and resell the garment, kept its most value. For the garment that is not suitable for resale and reuse, then garment disassembly and the fiber process is needed. We develop an AI-based garment type sorting and the material identification system for post-consumer textiles. When the massive amount of garment waste comes to us, firstly, garment type will be sorted by vision technology. The main features as fingerprint of the garment will be identified. Then a spectrum technology is used to identify the textile material. The garment suitable for reuse and resale is classified and sorted. For the garment that are not suitable for reuse and resale, recycle process will be applied to recover the fiber. An AI system for material and fabric construction identification is developed to identify textile material and fabric construction quickly and accurately, based on their characteristics spectrum and the fabric image process. It covers a broad range of textile material and the combination. After that, a deconstruction of fabric is performed to make the reusable fiber and the material ready to be used to make new yarn and fabric, so that can bring this used material back to the circle. We believe it is a critical step for textile recycle that will contribute to the whole value chain of the textile waste process. Textiles consume vast quantity of natural resources like water, oil, and land. They use toxic chemicals and generate a large amount of carbon oxide. How to convert this waste to new resources for textile material, that is a big topic. We worked on the most challenging part, the blended textile recycle, especially cotton and polyester blended, which share a big percentage of apparel fabric material. We explored multiple technologies such as chemical and biological technology to separate the blended fiber, improve the recycle efficiency and the performance, harvest the recycled fiber and the material for textile application. You may have heard about this hydrothermal system, developed since 2015. It is a chemical method. The process uses heat, water, and less than 5% of biodegradable green chemicals to achieve a recovery rate of over 98% of polyester fiber in half to 2 hours. The separated polyester fiber with almost no depolymerization are ready for spinning and the manufacture of new fabric, while the cellulose particle decomposed from the cotton can be applied for functional products. Today, I will introduce two approaches: how to use those cellulose particles regenerate new material and new fiber. The first is to utilize the cellulose particle to make superabsorbency material. Superabsorbency polymer have a feature to absorb and retain water multiple times of its own dry weight. It does not dissolve in water. Today, the majority of SAP are manufactured from synthetics. The global production capacity of acrylic-based SAP stands at 1,800 kilotons per year. The SAP from our project is a greener alternative. It is kind of cellulose-based SAP, or a process use mild chemical and a process in mild reaction conditions. The outcomes: SAP can retain water 30 times of its body weight. The cellulose-based SAP is biodegradable. Around 50% SAP degraded in the first 8 days. Currently, we are scaling it up. conducting trials with industry partners to evaluate its application in the cotton plantation in real farmer conditions. The second approach is that using the cellulose harvest from the hydrothermal process as a raw material for new type of functional regenerate cellulose fibers. The cellulose separated from the blended textile by the hydrothermal treatment is used as a building block to spinning fiber, while a part of the cellulose particle is further reduced to nano size. The different ratio of cellulose particle and the nanocellular particle was studied. The mixing method and the wet spinning process was optimized to improve the alignment of cellular chain. The final outcome is a regenerated cellular fiber suitable for garment application, with optional functions such as far eye emission and UV blocking. The manufacture process developed has a greater potential to produce high-value regenerated cellular fiber from the textile waste. Hong Kong RITA plays an active role in innovation and technology development. Closely work with manufacturer, brands, and research organizations, developing technology in sustainability, industry advantage, and a better society to benefit industry and the consumer.
Thanks, Gloria. That was really interesting. So next up, we have Michael Chan. He has worked for both the textile and apparel industry for more than 20 years and is very experienced in apparel product and market development. He will discuss more about the sustainable materials of linings and fabrics, which is currently a hot topic to the whole apparel industry and vital to the exploration of new market segments after the pandemic. Michael.
Hi everybody, I'm Michael Chen, working for Xingyi International Company Limited. Let me introduce some of our company background to you all. We have the Xingyi International top line is the major sustainable lining supplier of the world. We have offices in Seoul, Hong Kong, Shenzhen, Shanghai, and Ho Chi Minh cities to manage fabric production in Korea, China, and Vietnam. Basically, we are serving US and EU retailers or designer labels with available stock or tailor-made product. Products from different origins are fulfilling for different customer needs. Recently, we have all acknowledged from all kinds of news about using sustainable materials in apparel industries. You can see many news cutting in the PowerPoint. Some of them are my current customers. It is one of the hot topics at current market recovering stage from pandemic. Every retailer is concerning environmentally safe and reduce waste to earth, which is ignited when COVID-19 was hoisted. Especially for those athletic labels, green product or sustainability are the major topic of promotion campaign. They announced their change of sourcing strategy and are pushing to use more and more sustainable material in their collection. According to the European Commission, has committed to proposing minimum mandatory green criteria or targets for public procurements in sectoral initiatives, EU funding, or product-specific legislation. Such minimum criteria de facto set a common definition of what are green purchases, allowing collection of comparable data from public buyers, and setting the basis of assessing the impact of green public procurement. Such green purchase will be united with a human rights due diligence process. With this legislation completed by European Commission, all textile products must fulfill the green purchase criteria in order to obtain lower import tax rate and permission of selling EU market. Unlike other apparel components, lining or pocketing is the easiest way to obtain sustainable product. However, what kind of sustainable lining are available and how to certify they are sustainable is the key issue to all apparel retailers. In our sustainable lining family, first of all, I would like to introduce recycled polyester lining. It is the common sustainable lining used for garment making. The raw material is come from the production waste of normal polyester yarn. We call it pre-consumer recycled polyester. Besides, another source of raw material is come from casual disposals like PET bottle or other plastic product, named post-consumer recycled polyester. Actually, it is a common way to reduce polyester waste to the earth, but the current recycled polyester lining cost is almost same as normal polyester already. All recycled polyester lining can be certified by GRS, Global Recycle Standard. All raw material of recycled polyester is confronted by weight under GRS platform. Retailer can mention 100% recycled polyester lining in their content label in order to promote a sustainable garment with cell fabric is made up of natural fiber. So our company has stored some common recycled polyester items in different available colors for options without consideration of minimum quantities. Apart from material use, all GRS certified parties have to be audited in terms of environmental safety, human rights, and infringement of labor law. So they are all compliance proof, which is also reviewed annually to keep it to update compliance requirements. Another product is our EcoRural viscose lining made up of Lansing yarn to replace normal viscose or rayon yarn. EcoRural is 100% eco-friendly fiber, which can be biodegradable and no waste to the earth. EcoRural is made up of wood pulp and in filament yarn like normal rayon. It can be at least 90% degraded in soil within 3 years. So EcoRural is the most sustainable material for lining. Besides, this fabric can be verified by Lansing themselves to ensure this fabric is made up of their yarn. Their fiber avoids counterfeit. Here is the Lansing certificate. You can see the product and this certified is 100% EcoRural. This fiber, fabric, and garment are built in a closed ecosystem. Therefore, it is not a waste of our environment and unlimited use of sources without waste. Actually, this fiber is also suggested to use for cell fabric to replace normal viscose or rayon totally, because they are not biodegradable and become a waste after disposal. So I dare to say, garment made by EcoRural fiber is 100% eco-friendly. Other option of sustainable product is organic cotton certified by GOTS, Global Organic Textile Standard, similar to GRS. The raw material for organic cotton are confined in the platform. Only products certified by the platform and 70% organic cotton or above is used. Retailer can name their product by GOTS product and mention organic cotton used in their content label. And using BCI for lining. BCI is Better Cotton Initiative, who audit all cotton farmers to ensure all cotton growth in an organic and environmental safety way. Apart from current Xinjiang issue, BCI cotton can prove the country of origin of raw cotton. All certificates issued by BCI platform can allow us to know the country of origin of raw cotton, which grow in an environmentally friendly way and no harm to the earth. You can see here in my PowerPoint, you can see the country of origin made in Brazil. Besides this, it is represented a fair trade to cotton farmers, which is important to a green product. Every parties, including farmers to end users, are treated to be equal in the whole supply chain. It is also a sustainable way of apparel business. Definitely, we are offering sustainable blended material lining to serve varied purpose of retailers or designers. For example, we can produce recycled polyester blended with BCI cotton for TC fabric, or eco-rural viscose with recycled polyester for PV fabric to ensure using fully sustainable nylon. Actually, the definition of sustainable material is being kept updated frequently. Nobody or country is able to confine the usage of the sustainable fabric at this moment. So, a trustable supplier with certified or audited by appropriate authorities is utmost important to foreign buyers who require using sustainable fabric for their products. Here is my end of presentation. If you have any question, you can come up with our page or email to me for further question. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much, Michael. Now, our next presentation is from Vivek Ramachandran. Vivek is the Chief Executive Officer of Sarai, the digital B2B platform by HSBC that makes global trade easier for apparel businesses. Before Sarai, Vivek was the Global Head of Growth and Innovation for HSBC Commercial Banking. He was responsible for coordinating key strategic growth initiatives, exploring new business models, and driving the adoption of new technologies. Vivek, it's over to you.
Thank you, Fiona, and good morning or good afternoon to all of you, depending on which part of the world you're dialing in from. Pleasure to talk to you today. I am going to cover two topics. I'm going to share an external and hopefully an objective perspective on the challenges and opportunities facing the apparel industry. The industry is in the midst of once-in-a-generation change. I think it's important that we take a step back and understand what's changed, what isn't going to go back to the way things were. And I will also give you an introduction on who Sarai is and how we're helping the industry. So I think it's fair to say there's some parts of what's happened in COVID that are the change is going to be permanent. And we're not going to go back to the way things were. Specifically, travel. This nature of an event that we're having is going to continue forever, but more importantly, you're not going to go back to a world where sourcing executives are jumping on a plane and visiting factories, touching fabrics, walking through flows, getting to feel product. We are going to have to find digital ways of engaging with each other. We're not going to go back to a world where data is not utilized. There's a level of trust that's been broken between buyers and sellers. A lot of buyers have defaulted, and the manufacturers have been left holding the stock and taking a lot of financial risk. It will take time to build that trust back. Transparency is not a passing fad, and I'll come back to transparency because my thesis is that the single largest change coming out of the last 18 months, and hopefully by the time we get out of the crisis, is going to be the push, the drive for transparency. Where is your product coming from? Who is making your product? What are the raw materials going into it? I think it's fair to say the mix of product has fundamentally changed. For those of you who are calling in from the US, I'm sure you have many younger brands, newer retailers. You are going to want smaller orders. You are going to want quicker turnaround time. Good quality product on time, at a competitive price is going to be table stakes. That's going to be the minimum requirement for anybody in the industry. And finally, the economics of the industry have been tough. They're only going to get tougher, and they're going to stay that way. So we are in a market with excess capacity. There is no doubting the fact that you have more supply than demand. So competing at lower margins is going to be a reality. Unfortunately, the apparel industry, if we're all brutally honest, is coming from a relatively low digital quotient. the level of digital adoption, especially as you move upstream through the supply chain, is incredibly low. There hasn't been incentive for data sharing or transparency. People have benefited from the lack of transparency, and many brands and retailers have turned a blind eye, or they found it too difficult to really understand who is upstream in the supply chain, what are their credentials, and how compatible are they with your sustainability goals. Data is fragmented through the ecosystem, and that's been one of the key points that we at the origin of setting up Sarai within HSBC have focused on. And the industry has not adopted any consistent tools. We are in an inefficient equilibrium where manufacturers have to jump through multiple hoops dictated by multiple brands. The one point I will focus on, which I think is the essence and the absolute core of the transformation that the apparel industry is going through, is transparency. It doesn't matter whether it's from an investor perspective, a regulatory perspective, an activist perspective, a consumer perspective. Brands, retailers, manufacturers are going to have to become more transparent about what is going into your product, who's making it, what are their credentials, and broader values. The overwhelming majority of companies talk about this, yet less than 50% are actually trying to do something about that. And I think that is where the world will need to change. So it requires a new way of thinking. We are going to have to build traceability at the product level. But we can't do it the way the industry has always solved problems, which is the brands either using a stick or setting new requirements for manufacturers. We are going to have to do this in a way that incentivizes the data providers. Thankfully, the technology exists with easy access to insights and with independent verification. We don't envisage a world where the industry adopts a common standard anytime soon. So any solution is going to have to be interoperable and talk to multiple standards with multiple ways of verifying data. And that's where Sarai kicks in. We're a bold initiative by HSBC. We're based in Hong Kong, but we're a global platform. HSBC is the world's trade bank, the world's largest trade bank. But what Sarai does is offer solutions beyond banking. And we're focused on one industry for now, the fashion industry. We are a digital B2B platform that helps businesses build trusted trade relationships. We help you find counterparties, learn more about them, and exchange data or access data on them. The platform is less than 2 years old. We went live at the end of 2019, and we have just hit our 5,000th company on the platform. So we are seeing exponential growth in terms of users. Roughly 60% of the companies on the platform are what we tag as suppliers or manufacturers, and 40% are what we tag as buyers, which is either brands or retailers. What does the platform do? For smaller companies, we help you find new partners. For those of you dialing in from the US or the UK, if you're looking for a new supplier, come on to Sarai, tell us what you're looking for, we will find and connect you. We don't come between you and your supplier. We're not an agent. We help you build relationships. We help you get data on your counterparties, and we help the manufacturers showcase themselves. As your relationship grows, we help you get more information that you require to stay on top of your partners, but most importantly, we help you collect detailed information to manage your supply chains. So buyers are using Sarai in multiple ways, either finding new suppliers, getting data and alerts on upstream suppliers, or building order level traceability. Many of you do this manually. Many of you use middlemen. Many of you have done this by jumping on planes. We give you a digital alternative to do that. And we do that, doesn't matter where you are, it's 24/7. At the simplest level, every company on Sarai, every manufacturer, every supplier has a profile. Think of it as a much smarter, much more sophisticated version of what LinkedIn does for you and I as individuals. Companies showcase their products, their technology, their sustainability efforts, their credentials, who they're selling to their customers, and they can highlight what's important to them. You as brands and retailers can then use that to search and find partners. The screenshots that I've got on the right are as simple as that, which is it is incredibly intuitive, It feels like a platform that you and I would use as consumers. We recognize we're a B2B platform, but we talk to individuals, so we've made things as simple as we can. It's also your source to stay on top of what's happening in the industry. Your counterparties can post alerts about what they are up to. It helps you build a community and stay on top of them. You can submit quotations, RFQs, and sellers can respond to that. Again, we don't intermediate, we don't charge a commission. So basic access on the platform has no charge. If you want to be a featured profile or if you want premium services, that's what you subscribe to. So it's not an intermediary model. And the solution we've gone live with in the last 2 months is built around supply chain transparency. We help brands trace the raw materials going into their products. The focus, as you can imagine, given the geopolitics, is on cotton. So we have a cotton traceability solution that's being used by multiple global brands, which traces from cotton to yarn to fabric to garment to shipment. And that data is collected in an incredibly simple, transparent, and intuitive way. As one of our clients said, it feels like voodoo magic. Our people are used to doing manual surveys and Excel reconciliation. All of that friction goes away. Sarai simplifies that process. The beauty of building something in 2020, 2019, is you can build it on today's technology. It is modular. We don't prescribe a standard. We adapt to what you want to do. We can integrate with multiple data sources. We can give you the documents you want to submit to US Customs and Border Patrol or your European regulators in a downloadable fashion. And most importantly, there's huge benefit to the manufacturers. You share the data once on Sarai, and you can upload it once and you can share it with multiple buyers. So the incentives to share both for the buyers and the sellers. Come and get to know us. We are an example of the future of what Hong Kong holds. We're based in Hong Kong. We are a tech company funded by HSBC. We have 5,000 companies on the platform from 60 countries. We're focused on one industry. There is no charge to log on and build a profile, get to connect with companies. And so I'd urge all of you to come get to know us. We have a distinctive point of view on the industry, and I'd love to share more on that with you. So thanks very much. I know I've blitzed through that, but hopefully that was interesting, and I look forward to connecting with as many of you as possible.
Thanks, Vivek. Yes, that was really interesting. Sounds like a very innovative supply chain solution. Now on to the penultimate presentation in today's webinar. We now welcome Lynn Sprugel. Lynn is the founder and CEO of Abuzz Global LCC. Before starting her own venture, she was the Vice President and Managing Director, International Sourcing Operations for Academy International Limited, a subsidiary of Academy Sports and Outdoors, a US sporting goods and outdoor lifestyle retailer based in Katy, Houston, Texas. Lynn moved to Hong Kong in January 2014 to establish the Asia Sourcing Hub office for Asia expansion, opening in April 2014. Lynn.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you join us from. I'd like to thank WTIN as well as Invest Hong Kong for this opportunity to share my journey of kind of what took place during our office setup and opening. So, but first of all, my topic is how to manage supply chains in Asia. So if we look today at the coronavirus that has caused a massive global shift in supply chain strategies, as well as what the other speakers have talked about, the need for transparency and traceability, this is resulting in a lot of new business models for our industry and undergoing a lot of rapid change. So these changes have taken place almost instantly. And as Vivek referred to, it really commands new levels of trust. So these models are enabled and empowered by such technologies as digitalization, the cloud, faster communication, and more massive data files. Nowhere is this revolution more apparent than in materials, textiles, yarns, and fibers, as we heard from Gloria with HK Rita and Michael today. So first I wanted to start with kind of a statement of the purpose of a corporation, because the US Business Roundtable back in August of 2019 really redefined the purpose of the corporation. And I think this is having a large effect on companies today as they look forward in their supply chains. So if we look back to 1978, this US Business Roundtable out of Washington, D.C., periodically issued principles of corporate governance. And it was mainly focused on shareholders and gathering wealth, gaining value. So, but it redefined in August of 2019 by 18 major CEOs of corporations, of US corporations. It's really to promote an economy that serves all shareholders. So really an updated statement that moves away from that stakeholder to that shareholder, and really changing as with the changing consumer expectations around the origin and manner of production of products, as well as new practices in environmental, social, and government factors. So as I say, as companies go and look at now, fast forward into their new global structure and how they re-engineer supply chains, they really want to manage closer to the sale, as well as have feet on the ground and expertise in their production and manufacturing areas. So having an office in Asia today is really vital to managing your supply chain around the world. Without one during the height of the pandemic, a company would have a lot of difficulty in trying to manage their supply chain from US, Europe, Australia, or elsewhere. And, you know, as you look at trying to get a hold of people during that February, March period in China, it was really our Hong Kong office that was so successful in having the WeChats, the WhatsApp, you know, all of those connections through those type of communications that really enabled us to stay on top of our game and really be able to report to our merchants, you know, what was truly going on among the different provinces and how people could not travel. And really helped us to manage the port areas as well at that time. So when you start looking in Asia, Hong Kong is that prime place, you know, for all of these different reasons. So therefore, I just wanted to share a little bit more details on kind of my journey of setting up an office in Hong Kong. So in 2013, my company began reviewing office real estate sites in Hong Kong. All this time, we partnered with InvestHK to begin our pre-marketing for talent acquisition across key business publications around Hong Kong. After the site choice was made, design and build out took place for our move in of April 2014. So of course, there's a legal aspect of setting up a business, but really it was very easy in Hong Kong, you know, with a large benefit of the low corporate tax rate. So before we set up in Hong Kong, you know, I've traveled there since, I won't say the year, but many years ago. And we all knew that Hong Kong was rich in resources, but we learned a lot more being on the ground with the specifics. And as you can see, the three speakers before me, that is really the tip of the iceberg of what we found in Hong Kong. I have to say Hong Kong RITA through Hong Kong Polytech University and Hong Kong Research in Textiles and Apparel was one of my first stops. So I met Gloria back in 2014, and it's amazing what's taken place in the last 6-7 years there, and their garment to garment innovation that has taken place along with the mills. So I can see just in material innovation, how we learned so much. And while yes, there's material innovation going on in the US and Europe, it was great to have other perspectives, and in a lot of cases ahead of some of what was taking place in the US and Europe. You know, and looking at a mature sourcing hub with, as I say, many resources, lots of innovation, we also turned to universities to look for interns. There's a lot of executive education that takes place in Hong Kong, not only from Hong Kong universities, but from US and European universities that you can take advantage of and that your staff there can take advantage of. Hong Kong Polytech now recently has just started a Bachelor of Digital Fashion, which I think is amazing, because that's really what we're talking about, is how to upskill our current employees into the new era that we're operating with and how we do it digitally. I also took some GRI training, which was really learning about how to write a sustainability report while I was there, my last year there in Hong Kong. And that was an amazing, because if you know how to write a sustainability report, you definitely know what is being looked for, as these GRI reports for public companies, or the SASB used on a lot of the US stock exchanges, or GRI used on the Hang Seng index, are very important to communicating that message of sustainability and what your company is doing towards the UN Sustainable Development Goals. But innovation research was also amazing, and the types of conferences that take place in Hong Kong. Start Me Up Festival. Usually, in the past it happened in January. Now I think the time frame has changed a little bit. But fintech conferences, prop tech, that was kind of a new one for me. I didn't know what prop tech was, but really the convergence of property and technology. Changing the property industry. But I'd like to mention apparel and footwear conferences, from FashCon, which is through Inside Fashion, Prime Source, Fashion Transformer, Made in Asia, which is through the French Chamber, and PI Apparel, so Product Innovation Apparel. So those are just a few of the apparel textile conferences that take place. And I was very fortunate to be able to go and participate in really each one of those. And you saw a different dynamic in each conference, from the presenters to the attendees. And so again, you were able to gain a very broad perspective of what was taking place in the industry. And of course, if I'm going to mention conferences, you can't miss the Hong Kong Wine and Dine Festival, which is really amazing, as well as the Hong Kong International Literacy Festival, which they bring in a lot of authors of books, not only Asian written books, but all over the world. So I had to throw in my other two favorite conferences. But the other key aspect I wanted to talk about was managing your supply base. Based out of Hong Kong, I mean, having worked in the US the majority of my career, but based in Hong Kong, it was so easy to get things done, and to be able to call up your supplier, work with them on a day basis, finish your solution, and then communicate it back to the US or whoever needed the communication. But the ease of information, the ease of having, at that time, we did travel for vendor conferences. Obviously now a lot's being done through Zoom, but a lot of pre-production meetings in helping to develop that product and make sure it was correct from the very beginning. So while Hong Kong continues as a key role in the finance center, it's really developing a world-class technology and innovation hub, as I've mentioned many of the key sites there. So with the demand for new materials, product innovation, manufacturing techniques, and retail platforms, you're going to be able to see this in many different areas there in Hong Kong. And as I mentioned, in the new purpose of a corporation, companies now are really addressing the environmental, social, and governance compliance aspect. Very important for their investors, but also I think maybe even more important for their consumers as they look at who they're selling to. So, Hong Kong has been a regional hub, not only for logistics, which is very important for your supply chains within Asia, but also working with a lot of other manufacturing hubs, throughout Asia. And one of the things that I was so pleasantly, I really enjoyed by the end of by 2019 was the connectivity. I mean, obviously the Hong Kong International Airport is amazing, but the connectivity through the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge to get to that area of southern China, the high-speed rail into Shenzhen, which took 12 minutes. Don't blink or don't fall asleep. And then the high-speed train network throughout China to be able to get to many, many destinations. So, whether it's hopping on a plane or using the high-speed train network, it's the transportability is very easy and really cuts down and gives you more time throughout your work schedule. So I just wanted to share a few personal experiences as well. I was able to, at night, there are weekends, I'll say, work on my doctorate of business administration at City University. It was an amazing program. And the reason I say this, for expats that come, or for local Hong Kong people, it was an amazing journey through not only not only a rigorous program, but the contacts that you made not only at the university, but across your cohort, across your industry. And I still, we still have monthly phone calls with our cohort. But another one is the American Chamber, and there are other chambers. British, I've taken part in the French Chamber, as I said, Made in Asia, amazing conference. But I'm now the chair of Apparel, Footwear, and Supply Chain Committee. So our pillars for that committee are really looking at talent awareness. So we're actively building a program with the Hong Kong Federation of Youth for looking to help promote textiles and apparel into secondary schools to get young people interested in this type of career, as well as into universities. We also have speakers from our AmCham group that go to universities and speak about the industry, as well as getting internships through those. We're also developing programs for upskilling through companies. One is called GIFT. We've used Dale Carnegie before, and other companies that can help us take those 2 to 5 year employees and get them to the next level of middle management or moving into other countries to help further the supply chain. And a few other things that again, in connections throughout Hong Kong that I took advantage of were meetup groups. And one meetup group that I went to was looking at all historical sites in Hong Kong. Hong Kong has an amazing history, of course, with the British being there 100 years, but even before that, visiting some of the museums, the Maritime Museum, and I went out and visited other countries and their historical sites as well. It tells you a lot about the culture, and that was one of the things as we opened our office there. We wanted to embed our company's culture so that the office employees would know what it was like working in the home office, but yet have a local blend and local characteristics, in recognizing all the holidays and other things that are important as you build cross-cultural relations. So, Hong Kong as well offers, I went on a lot of boat trips, golfing, country park hiking. I did study some Mandarin. It's a little boo-how, which means not good, but it gave me a lot of insight to the culture and was able to get to the point where I could open vendor conferences in Mandarin, which I thought was really important to build that cultural bridge with your vendors and with your own culture. So like I say, in closing here, there are so many opportunities in Hong Kong that you just really have to reach out, step out. And as I say, you may not know what your next step is, but if you just keep stepping out, there's an amazing plethora of resources in Hong Kong and abilities to continue to build your business based in the Hong Kong city. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn. Really interesting there. And it was particularly great to hear about the efforts put in place to support the next generation of textile and apparel specialists. Now on to the final presentation of today's webinar, which is from Emily Choi. Emily is the Senior Manager of Consumer Products at Invest Hong Kong, the government department responsible for attracting and facilitating foreign direct investment into Hong Kong. She works with overseas and mainland consumer product companies in setting up and expanding their businesses in Hong Kong. Over to you, Emily.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone here. My name is Emily from Invest Hong Kong. I do work with a number of consumer products companies in helping them expand and set up their businesses in Asia via Hong Kong. So just now we were thrilled to hear so many excellent sharings from so many speakers from the Economic and Trade Office, New York, to Hong Kong Vita, to Sung Il, Sarai, and also Lynn. There's one thing in common among them is that all these innovations comes from Hong Kong. So what makes Hong Kong so special? This is something we'd like to share more about. So let us first take a look at Hong Kong. So a lot of people talk about, or a lot of media talk about Hong Kong as a finance hub. So But then when we take a look at the labor statistics, we find something very special. So Hong Kong has a population of 7.5 million people, and approximately half of them work in the labor force. But when we take a look at the employment breakdown by industry, we find that there are more people, actually 9% of the labor force are working in the import, export, trade, and wholesale industry. And that is even more than those in financing and insurance. And of course, the bigger number is bigger than that of retail. What that means is that a lot of sourcing activities are happening in Hong Kong, and people here are constantly innovating. So in Hong Kong, in terms of textile and apparel, we do see an ecosystem of many different kinds of players, and they all form, actually players from the whole supply chain can all be found in Hong Kong. So we can start, though some of them are from transnational factory groups that work with raw materials, for example, like DuPont, Itochu, Marubeni, to trims, textiles, and apparel suppliers such as Lansing, such as YKK, Talon, Songil, which just shared with us some of their excellent products, Thomas Mason. Then we also have Kaihara Denim, which is the Japanese biggest denim supplier, and also Hong Kong Nonwoven. And actually, Hong Kong Nonwoven invented the Omni Heat, which is used in Colombia. And we are also seeing a number of apparel suppliers in Hong Kong, which includes Esquire Group, which is the world's largest shirt maker, and also Crystal Group, which, according to Euromonitor, is the world's largest apparel maker by volume in 2016. We are also seeing a number of multinational independent agents, such as Buyhive or Leverstyle, and also, of course, a lot of buying offices of various brands are in Hong Kong. And this ecosystem of textile and apparel players are constantly evolving with the help of innovation and change agents, including Hong Kong retail, also startups, and other professional services. So just now, I mentioned about there are a lot of fashion buying offices are in Hong Kong. So how concentrated they are? So this is a map showing the eastern part of Kowloon. Actually, this strip of area spreads along 3 metro stations. So from one station walking from the top, so to the north, is Kowloon Base MTR station, and then Ngau Tau Cox metro station, and then Kwun Tong. So to have a walk in this strip takes about 20 minutes or so. And we did a quick search on the internet, and we found more than 20 brands having their buying offices here. This means that if you have your team here, you can just get in touch and get connected to these brands just within a 20 minutes walk. And of course, this is not the only cluster in Hong Kong. We also have some other clusters in Tsim Sha Tsui and also some other districts. So a lot of business activities and a lot of business opportunities are available. And even now we are still seeing new players coming to Hong Kong. So recent cases, we've seen Lansand, we've seen Gymshark. We are also seeing Ross Stores setting up their office in Hong Kong. And actually, right now you can see that the screen shows that actually the chief marketing officer of Gymshark, he made a video where we actually didn't ask him to, but he made a video explaining why they set up their Gymshark office. So I'm not sure whether you can hear the sound. So let me try. Maybe. Can you guys hear the sound? If not, I can share again. Yep. Well, let me apologies. Let me try to share that I think it doesn't work. So let me try again. It's a pretty long video, about 11 minutes, but let me share just 2 to 3 minutes of that.
So this week we have flown out to Hong Kong for the grand opening.
It takes some while to load, I think.
Manufacturers. We spent a lot of time getting that stuff made in the UK. That was really good until we continued to grow super fast, and those individuals couldn't essentially deal with how quickly we were growing, the quantities that we needed, the turnaround that we needed, and most importantly, actually, the quality wasn't there. So at that point, we decided to start to get things produced internationally. Now at that point, we were investing really heavily into the team here. All of a sudden it went from just being a small handful of us with no one really being dedicated to product. We had specific people coming in to work in the product team. And at that point we could get better suppliers, more international suppliers, and we were actually making CADs and designs, and we were actually measuring things out properly. Whereas back at the beginning, it was literally a case of drawing the product that we wanted and just trying to really manually get our message across to the suppliers. At this point, we were using Illustrator for the designs. We were creating tech packs and things like that. So by doing these things and creating tech packs, it allowed us to communicate and work with a higher quality of supplier. And those suppliers were in the UK, in Europe, and then around the world as well. Now, even then, with all those things in place, a lot of those suppliers did struggle with the volumes that we were ordering, and we were growing so fast. Like even in percentage terms, it's faster than we were today. And then because we were selling out so fast, we were constantly battling with those guys saying, we need more product, we need it quickly, because we were rushing things through. Again, quality wasn't there. It was definitely improving from where it was previously, but it definitely wasn't. It was improving, but it definitely wasn't exactly where we wanted it to be. So where we are in this part of Gymshark history today is the product team is incredible compared to where it was. There's 30 or 40 people in the team. We know about the product coming from source. We know every material that we're using. We're selecting it. We're developing our own materials. We're currently designing products 12 to 18 months in advance. So today we're working on the stuff that's going to be coming out end of 2020. And that's great for us in terms of getting better quality suppliers, people that are producing for some incredible companies around the world. Now, working with those suppliers, we need all the infrastructure that we've got here. We need the people. We need to be creating really detailed tech packs and designs and things like that. But equally, the relationships need to be absolutely perfect, and we need to be talking to them regularly face to face. Not only that, but we need to really understand where they want to go as a business, which is why this Hong Kong trip was really important. So we really need those guys to understand where we've come from, where we're at now, where we're going, our aspirations for the future. And they need to come on this journey with us. We need to know what they want and where they want to go. And for me, it's really important that I get to spend time with them. We've come a long way from where we started, and we've got a long way to go. Our product quality isn't quite there yet, and a lot of the changes that we're putting into effect now won't actually be seen on the front end in the product for at least 12-18 months because of how far in advance we're designing the product. But Hong Kong was an amazing trip because it gave us the opportunity to really strengthen our relationships with the suppliers. It allowed them to talk through the structure that we've got here and the way that we're working here at Gymshark. And more importantly than that, it gave us an opportunity to plan for the future and make sure that they understand just how much we'll need and what we want, what our aspirations are, not only from a quantity perspective, but in terms of the quality of our product. So they're now well aware that anything less than the best is not good enough for us. We're not going to be pushing people on price because we know we want to make the best fitness wear in the world.
Yeah, so Gymshark share about why they opened Gymshark Hong Kong. They find that Hong Kong's cluster of ecosystem players really helps them propel their business in terms of volume and quality. So that's something we do think that brands still see Hong Kong as a very good sourcing hub, and actually they're opening their offices in year 2020. And this innovation in terms of sourcing, actually the Hong Kong government does a lot of support to the innovation and technology landscape in Hong Kong. This chart shows the numerous funding schemes provided by the Hong Kong government to support the innovation and technology environment to grow. And there's so many of them. So in case you would like to make use of these funding schemes, by setting up an office in Hong Kong, yeah, we do welcome to chat with you more on that. And actually, this support this Hong Kong government support, together with a lot of change agents, makes Hong Kong having a very vibrant startup ecosystem. We do an annual survey of startups in Hong Kong, and even though last year was a challenging year for many businesses, we still see growth in terms of number of startups, and they are constantly innovating. And so, in terms of textiles and apparel, one of a very important incubator is called the Mills, which incubates and supports companies and startups that across the value chain. So they support companies which build resiliency in supply chain, digitization of retail, and also companies which helps to augment and develop this ecosystem. So a lot of locals are here, and they are always wanting to work with more companies. And Invest Hong Kong worked with KPMG last year on a study on the future of sourcing report. Last year has brought unprecedented changes to the sourcing landscape. And to find out the future of sourcing in the eyes of industry players, we interviewed a number of industry players engaging the thoughts on Hong Kong as a sourcing hub, whether they still see Hong Kong being relevant. What we find is that companies are digitizing more and more rapidly. They are using more digital technologies to help them evolve and rejuvenate. And of course, that will mean shorter and shorter lead time, and they will need more and more efficient sourcing supply chains. And so they feel, what we find out is that they all see that Hong Kong being a very efficient place for doing businesses, and also they find the Hong Kong talent being very experienced and capable in helping their sourcing and supply chain to evolve. And they told us that they are never going to just to see another Hong Kong emerge in this new era. So if you are interested to get a copy of the report, do reach out to us. I'll share about my contact in the last slide. So Invest Hong Kong, we want to strengthen Hong Kong's status as an international business hub. We have been working with a number of international and mainland companies in helping their business grow via Hong Kong, and we want to work with you as well. So we offer a number of practical assistance from providing market information to helping you formulate a strategy and providing thought leadership for you to make the best business decisions. We also provide you with opportunities to build your network, to connect with different players, and also networking. All our services are free and confidential, and we have over 30 offices worldwide. So there must be an office near you. And so we do want to talk to you more because of in the interest of time. We cannot share more, but we do want to talk to you after this webinar. So here are the details of Leo and me. So I will share this information in the chat function. We do look forward to talking with you and also helping your business grow. So thank you so much, and I'll pass the time to Fiona.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was really, really good. Thank you. And so now we have time for a Q&A. So again, if you do have a question, please type it into the Q&A box, and we'll go through some of those. Just kind of looking at the questions that we've got, there was one asked early on. I think this is more relevant for Gloria, and they're wanting to ask about how much is the yield percentage of these blended fabrics. Is that something that you can provide more information on? I don't know if Gloria's there. But I think in the meantime, I've just got a question. I think this would probably be quite good for Emily and for Candy. If people have been listening to this presentation today and they're really keen and interested in investing in Hong Kong and perhaps setting up business, what are the first steps that they can take, and how would you kind of support them in their efforts?
Yeah, maybe let me share some. Let me share first. We are very happy to work with companies to set up their businesses in Hong Kong, and in fact, our organization has been set up for 20 years, and we have helped a number of companies. We do suggest that you send us an email so that we can have a discussion. We find out more about your businesses, and before we suggest what's the best for your company to take things forward. So yeah, do reach out to us. I'm sending my contact information in the chat function now.
No, that's brilliant. Thanks very much for that, Emily. And I guess if Vivek's there on the call, is he there?
I seems missed a question, right? I'm Gloria.
Oh, Gloria. Hi, Gloria.
Yes.
Actually, yeah, it'd be great to go back to you. Someone was previously asking about the yield percentage of the blended fabrics that you were talking about. So do you have some information on that?
Yes. I guess the question is about the hydrothermal, the blended fabric separation. The yield ratio actually is over 98% of the polyester fiber can be harvested from the separation process, and the fiber almost no depolymerization. And the cellular part will goes to the cellular particles to goes to the regenerated cellular process, or we call the SAP process. The yield ratio also is over 98%. So I hope I answered that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. I did actually, it's quite a broad question regarding sustainability. And someone has said that considering that manufacturing countries such as China, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka are still massively suffering from river water pollution from textile dye houses and wet processing units, as well as air pollution, what must the textile industry and governments do to eliminate these environmental and human health hazards? Do you have any thoughts there?
Yes, actually, the wastewater issue is, I think, the most serious issue for the textile sustainability. And the government side, I think, the Vietnam and the China mainland, they improve the standard of the wastewater discharge. And I think the other country maybe follow later on. And also in the global the awareness of the sustainability, I think either the industry, the brand, the government, they all work together, see how can improve that by the technology management, so all tools to work on that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think for you, Lynn, just sort of going by the disruption to supply chains and the challenges that we have seen from COVID-19, what are the particularly challenges that you're receiving right now or hearing about from the customers and the people that you're working with?
I think one of the first ones is the logistics, with the shortage of containers, getting containers back from the US and Europe to Asia. So a shortage of equipment. So the whole logistics system is disrupted, and many people thought that after Chinese New Year it would kind of even out, but it hasn't. And I think it really now is stemming for, as more countries and people get vaccines, they feel maybe more free to go out and do more shopping. So while maybe they just bought tops in the past, now they want shorts and pants and dresses. to be able to socialize again. So this is causing, while apparel and footwear sales had been down, now they're pointing the other way, they're going up. So with that becomes challenges again of, more demand than what we have supply. So a lot of it is really looking at inventory planning and how that is done. And I think it's also looking at where you produce and where you sell. So can you find production maybe in Central America if you're selling into the US market for some items? Obviously large quantities you'd still have to do in Asia and all. But there's a lot of micro factories that are starting up in the US and Europe. And while that will not satisfy large quantities, it can help companies be innovative and test small quantities to see what really sells and what their consumer resonates with, versus going and producing 100,000 pieces or 200,000 pieces and then trying to sell it and you have leftover inventory. So those are some of the challenges that we see in the supply chain.
Thank you. And I think we just got time for one more question. Is recycling and regenerated yarn being done on a mass scale? And is the pricing of recycled fibre feasible for textiles? Is that something perhaps, Gloria, do you have any information on that?
Yes. Actually, we are scaling up the recycle technologies. Yeah, I think you may heard about last year, November. We work with brands to scale up the hydrothermal system. And due to the COVID-19, the schedule is a little bit postponed due to the logistical issue, actually, line. And so I think you will have or update soon in the later of this year. Yeah, we are working on the scale up. And the price, I think, is reasonable and comparable with the virgins at this moment, according to our estimation. Yes.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Well, that's all we've got time for. Thanks so much for everyone for taking part today. And also a huge thank you to everyone who has attended. We really appreciate your support and hope you found the webinar insightful. You will receive a copy of the webinar later today. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.